42. I vex my heart with fancies dim. He still outstripped me in the race. It was but unity of place that made me dream I ranked with him. And so may place retain us still, and he, the much beloved again. A lord of large experience train, to riper growth the mind and will. And what delights can equal those that stir the spirit's inner deeps, when one that loves but knows not reaps a truth from one that loves and knows. 43. If sleep and death be truly one, in every spirit's folded bloom, throw all its intervital gloom, in some long trance should slumber on, unconscious of the sliding hour, bare of the body might it last, and silent traces of the past be all the color of the flower. So then were nothing lost to man, so that still garden of the souls, and many a figured leaf enrolls the total world since life began, and love will last as pure and whole as when he loved me here in time, and at the spiritual prime, or waken with the dawning soul. 44. How fares it with the happy dead? For here the man is more and more, but he forgets the days before God shut the doorways of his head. The days had vanished, tone and tint, and yet perhaps the hoarding sense gives out at times, he knows not whence, a little flash, a mystic hint. And in the long harmonious years, if death so tastes, Lethean springs, may some dim touch of earthly things surprise thee ranging with thy peers. If such a dreamy touch should fall, O turn thee round, resolve the doubt, my guardian angel will speak out in that high place and tell thee all. Now, if we're going to ask for a binding of somebody, what we should be asking is a binding of, in regards to evil and ignorance, if you want to use those terms, but not per se the ability, because the abilities can be used towards something better. 45. The baby knew to earth and sky what time his tender palm is pressed against the circle of the breast, has never thought that this is I. But as he grows, he gathers much, and learns the use of I and me, and finds I am not what I see, and other than the things I touch. So rounds he too a separate mind, from whence clear memory may begin, as through the frame that binds him in, his isolation grows defined. This use may lie in cold blood and breath, which else were fruitless of their due, had man to learn himself anew, beyond the second birth of death. 46. We ranging down this lower track, the path we came by, thorn and flower, is shadowed by the growing hour. Lest life should fail in looking back, so be it, there no shade can last, but that deep dawn behind the tomb, but clear from marge to marge shall bloom the eternal landscape of the past, a lifelong tract of time revealed, the fruitful hours of still increase, days ordered in a wealthy peace, And those 5 years, its richest field, O love, thy province were not large, a bounded field, nor stretching far. Look also, love, a brooding star, a rosy warmth from marge to marge, that each who seems a separate whole should move his rounds, and fusing all, the skirts of self again should fall, remerging in the general soul. Its faith is vague as all unsweet, eternal form shall still divide the eternal soul from all beside, and I shall know him when we met, and we shall sit at endless feast, enjoying each the other's good. What vaster dream can hit the mood of love on earth he seeks at last, upon the last and sharpest height, before the spirits fade away, some landing place to clasp and say, farewell, we lose ourselves in light. That each started 47. So 48. If these brief lays of sorrow born were taken to be such as closed, grave doubts and answers here proposed, then these were such as men might scorn. Her care is not to part and prove, she takes when harsher moods remit, what slender shade of doubt may flit, and makes it vassal unto love. And hence indeed she sports with words, and better serves a wholesome law, and holds it sin and shame to draw the deepest measure from the chords. Nor dare she trust a larger lay, but rather loosens from the lip short swallow flights of song that dip their wings in tears and skim away. 49. From art, from nature, from the schools, let random influences glance, like light in many a shivered lance, that breaks about the dappled pools. The lightest wave of thought shall lisp, the fancy's tenderest eddy reap, the slightest air of song shall breathe, to make the sullen surface crisp. And look thy look, and go thy way, but blame not thou the winds that make the seeming wanton ripple break, the tender penciled shadow play beneath all fancied hopes and fears. Me the sorrow deepens down, whose muffled motions blindly drown the bases of my life in tears. 51. Do we deed desire the dead, should still be near us at our side? Is there no baseness we would hide, no inner vileness that we dread? Shall he for whose applause I strove, I had such reverence for his blame, see with clear eyes some hidden shame, and I be lessened in his love? I wrong the grave with fears untrue. Shall love be blamed for want of faith? There must be wisdom with great death. The dead shall look me through and through. Be near us when we climb or fall. Ye watch like God the rolling hours, with large other eyes than ours, to make allowance for us all. And if the person's not going to have a good afterlife, it's good. It's good to be gone with them. If they're going to have a good afterlife, it's good to be gone with them. You wouldn't want to delay their better existence than this world, or at least purely good existence. 52. I cannot love thee as I ought, for love reflects the thing beloved. My words are only words unmoved upon the topmost froth of thought. Yet blame not thou thy plaintive song. The spirit of true love replied, Thou canst not move me from thy side, nor human frailty do me wrong. What keeps the spirit wholly true to that ideal which he bears? What record not the sinless years that breathed beneath the Syrian blue? So fret not like an idle girl, that life is dashed with flecks of sin. Abide, thy wealth is gathered in, when time hath sundered shell from pearl. 53. How many a father have I seen, a sober man among his boys, whose youth is full of foolish noise, who wears his manhood pale and green, and dare we to this fancy give, that had the wild oat not been sown, the soil left barren scarce had grown, the grain by which a man may live, or if we held the doctrine sound, for life outliving heats of youth. Yet who would preach it as a truth to those that eddy round and round? Hold thou the good, define it well, for fear divine philosophy should push beyond her mark, and be procuress to the lords of hell. 59. O sorrow, wilt thou live with me? No casual mistress, but a wife, my bosom friend and half of life, as I confess it needs must be. O sorrow, wilt thou rule my blood, but sometimes levelly like a bride, and put thy harsher moods aside? If thou wilt have me wise and good, my centered passion cannot move, nor will it lessen from today, but I'll have leave at times to play, as with the creatures of my love, and set thee forth, for thou art mine, with so much hope for years to come, that howsoever I know thee, some could hardly tell what name were thine. 60. He passed, a soul of nobler tone. My spirit loved and loves him yet, like some poor girl whose heart is set on one whose rank exceeds her own. He mixing with his proper sphere, she finds the baseness of her lot, half jealous of she knows not what, and envying all that meet him there. The little village looks forlorn, she sighs amid her narrow days, moving about the household ways. In that dark house where she was born, the foolish neighbors come and go, and tease her till the day draws by. At night she weeps, how vain am I, how should he love a thing so low? 61. If in thy second state sublime that ransomed reason change replies, with all the circle of the wise, the perfect flower of human time, and if thou canst thine eyes below, how dimly charactered and slight, how dwarfed a growth of cold and night, how blanched with darkness must I grow, yet turn thee to the doubtful shore, for thy first form was made a man. I loved thee, spirit and love, nor can the soul of Shakespeare love thee more. 62. Thou, if an eye that's downward cast could make thee somewhat blanch or fail, then be my love an idle tale and fading legend of the past, and thou as one that once declined, when he was little more than boy, on some unworthy heart with joy, but lives to wed an equal mind, and breathes a noble world, the while his other passion wholly dies, or in the light of deeper eyes is matter for a flying smile. 63. Yet pity for a horse o'erdriven, and love in which my hound has part, can hang no weight upon my heart, and its assumptions up to heaven, and I am so much more than these, as thou perchance art more than I, and yet I spare them sympathy, and I would set their pains at ease. So mayest thou watch me where I weep, as unto vaster motions bound, the circuits of thine orbit round, a higher height, a deeper deep. 65. Dost thou look back on what hath been, as some divinely gifted man, whose life in low estate began, and on a simple village green, who breaks his birth's invidious bar, and grasps the skirts of happy chance, and breasts the blows of circumstance, and grapples with his evil star, who makes by force his merit known, and lives to clutch the golden keys, to mold a mighty state's decrees, and shape the whisper of the throne, and moving up from high to higher, becomes on fortune's crowning slope the pillar of a people's hope, the center of a world's desire, yet feels, as in a pensive dream, when all his active powers are still, a distant nearness in the hill, a secret sweetness in the stream, the limit of his narrower fate, while yet beside its vocal springs he played at counselors and kings, with one that was his earliest mate, who plows with pain his native Leah, and reaps the labor of his hands, are in the furrow, musing stands. Does my old friend remember me? 65. Sweet soul, do with me as thou wilt. I lull a fancy, trouble tossed, with loves too precious to be lost. A little grain shall not be split, and in that solace can I sing, till out of painful phases wrought, there flutters up a happy thought, self-balanced on a lightsome wing, since we deserve the name of friends, and thine effect so lives in me. A part of mine may live in thee, and move thee on to noble ends. 66. You thought my heart too far diseased. You wonder, when my fancies play, to find me joyous among the joyous, like one with any trifle pleased. The shade by which my life was crossed, which makes a desert in the mind, has made me kindly with my kind, and like to him whose sight is lost, whose feet are guided through the land, whose jest among his friends is free, who takes the children on his knee, and winds their curls about his hand. He plays with threads, he beats his chair, for pastime, dreaming of the sky. His inner day can never die, his night of loss is always there. 68. When in the down I sink my head, sleep, death's twin brother, times my breath. Sleep, death's twin brother, knows not death, nor can I dream of thee as dead. I walk as ere I walked forlorn, when all our path was fresh with the dew, and all the bugle breezes blew. Reveille to the breaking morn. But what is this? I turn about, I find a trouble in thine eye, which makes me sad. I know not why. Nor can my dream resolve the doubt, but ere the lark hath left this Leah. I wake, and I discern the truth. It is the trouble of my youth, that foolish sleep transfers to thee. 72. Resist thou thus, dim dawn again, and howlest issuing out of night, with blasts that blow the poplar white, and lash with storm the streaming pane, day when my crowned estate begun to pine in that reverse of doom, which sickened every living bloom, and blurred the splendor of the sun, who usherest in the dolorous hour with thy quick tears that make the rose pull sideways and the daisy close her crimson fringes to the shower, who mightest have heaved a windless flame up the deep east, our whispering played a checkerwork of beam and shade among the hills, yet looked the same, as wan, as chill, as wild as now, day marked with as with some hideous crime, when the dark hand struck down through time and cancelled nature's best. But thou, lift as thou mayest thy burthen brows through clouds that drench the morning star, and roll the ungartered sheaf afar, and sow the sky with flying boughs, and up thy vault with roaring sound. Climb thy thick noon, disastrous day, touch thy dull goal of joyless gray, and hide thy shame beneath the ground. 74. As sometimes in a dead man's face, to those that watch it more and more, a likeness hardly seen before comes out to someone of his race, so dearest now, thy brows are cold, I see thee what thou art and know, thy likeness to the wise below, thy kindred with the great of old, but there is more than I can see. And what I see I leave unsaid, nor speak it, knowing death has made his darkness beautiful with thee. 75. I leave thy praises unexpressed, in verse that brings myself relief, and by the measure of my grief I leave thy greatness to be guessed. What practice, howsoever expert, in fitting aptest words to things, our voice to the richest toned that sings, hath power to give thee as thou wert. I care not in these fading days to raise a cry that lasts not long, and round thee with the breeze of song to stir a little dust of praise. Thy leaf has perished in the green, and while we breathe beneath the sun, the world which credits what is done is cold to all that might have been. So here shall silence guard thy fame, but somewhere out of human view, whatever thy hands are set to do is wrought with tumult of acclaim. 78. Again at Christmas did we weave the holly round the Christmas hearth. The silent snow possessed the earth, and calmly fell our Christmas Eve. The Yule log sparkled keen with frost, no wing of wind the region swept, but over all things brooding slept the quiet sense of something lost. As in the winters left behind, again our ancient games had place, the mimic pitchers breathing grace, and dance and song and hoodman blind, who showed a token of distress, no single tear, no mark of pain. O sorrow, then can sorrow wane? O grief, can grief be changed to less? O last regret, regret can die. No mix with all this mystic frame. Her deep relations are the same, but with long use her tears are dry. 79. More than my brothers are to me, let this not vex thee, noble heart. I know thee of what force thou art, to hold the costliest love in fee, but thou and I are one in kind, as moulded like in nature's mint, and hill and wood and field did print the same sweet forms in either mind. For us the same cold streamlet curled through all his eddying coves, the same all winds that roam the twilight came in whispers of the beatus world. At one dear knee we proffered vows, one lesson from one book we learnt, ere childhood's flaxen ringlet turned to black and brown on kindred brows. And so my wealth resembles thine, but he was rich where I was poor, and he supplied my want the more, as his unlikeness fitted mine. 80. If any vague desire should rise, that holy death, ere Arthur died, had moved me kindly from his side, and dropped the dust on tearless eyes, then fancy shapes as fancy can the grief my loss in him had wrought, a grief as deep as life or thought, but stayed in peace with God and man. I make a picture in the brain, I hear the sentence that he speaks. He bears the burden of the weeks, but turns his burden into gain. His credit thus shall set me free, and an influence rich to soothe and save, unused example from the grave, reach out dead hands to comfort me. Religion is relationship with people, with creation, and with God. 82. I wage not any feud with death, for changes wrought on form and face, no lower life that earth's embrace may breed with him can fright my faith. Eternal process moving on, from state to state the spirit walks, and these are but the shattered stalks, our ruined chrysalis of one. Nor blame I death because he bare the use of virtue out of earth. I know transplanted human worth will bloom to profit otherwhere. For this alone on death I wreak the wrath that garners in my heart. He put our lives so far apart, we cannot hear each other speak. 84. When I contemplate, all alone, the life that had been thine below, and fix my thoughts on all the glow to which thy crescent would have grown, I see thee sitting crowned with good, a central warmth diffusing bliss, and glance and smile and clasp and kiss on all the branches of thy blood, my friend, and partly mine. For now the day was drawing on, when thou shouldest link thy life with one of mine own house, and boys of thine had babbled uncle on my knee, but that remorseless iron hour made cypress of her orange flower, despair of hope, and earth of thee. I seemed to meet their least desire, to clasp to clap their cheeks, to call them mine. I see their unborn faces shine. See, on the face. That's a phrase that has different meaning nowadays, I think. See their unborn faces shine beside the never-lighted fire. I see myself an honored guest, thy partner in the flowery walk of letters, genial table talk, our deep dispute and graceful jest. While now thy prosperous labor fills the lips of men with honest praise, and sun by sun the happy days descend below the golden hills with promise of a morn as fair, and all the train of bounteous hours conduct by paths of growing powers to reverence and the silver hair, till slowly worn her earthly robe, her lavish mission richly wrought, leaving great legacies of thought, thy spirit should fail from off the globe. What time mine own might also flee, as linked with thine in love and fate, and hovering o'er the dolorous strait, to the other shore involved in thee, arrive at last the blessed goal, and he that died in Holy Land would reach us out the shining hand, and take us as a single soul. And Turtle's been quite active today now, isn't he?